Welcome. I'm so happy that you're joining me today. Today, I'm talking about choosing joy and using a metaphor in the fields of life. So, choosing joy in the fields of life. This is Adele Anderson from Life Coach Adele. This is another episode of Good Grief Relief. We were never meant to live in emotional pain. They say that grief might be the price we pay for love, but I don't believe the price is your future. There are natural and easy ways through neuroscience that we can release the emotional entanglement that happens with life's deepest, most painful events. So welcome. The metaphor of a grain field, this concept of, just vastness and each one of those grains becoming this field rather than the individual, and how it moves in the wind, but also there can be the unpredictable of what happens within that field of life. So there's parallels between life's unpredictabilities and the shifting seasons of a grain field. I got some wicked news a couple of days ago where someone that I knew died unexpectedly. It was really tragic. There wasn't a lot of forewarning, if any, and everyone was caught off guard. And so it really sent myself into a tailspin. I began to cry. I was overwhelmed with my emotions. I couldn't wrap my head around what had happened, and I couldn't imagine what the family was experiencing. So when we have these, critical life events, recognize that there is that unpredictability, and when it catches us off guard, it's almost like our reptilian brain begins to go, well, if I missed that, if I didn't see that, then what else am I not seeing? But these shifting seasons in the grain field, there are plants that are sowed or seeds that are sowed, and then they germinate and then they grow, and at some point they reach maturity and they die, or they are reaped and then formed into something else. And I think that there's value in that as well. As someone who's experienced a near-death experience, and that feeling of being on the other side was just permeation of unconditional love. I knew who I was, what had happened to my body, and yet I had very little concern. It was like a form of evolution. And if that's anything that's within your belief systems, or even just to shift your perception or expand your perception for this particular podcast, for just a moment in time to suspend maybe disbelief and consider that major science in the world has now said we're beyond debating life after death, that we're so far beyond proving it. It's simply people's belief systems that have not caught up. And I got that reference from Robert Lanza, Dr. Robert Lanza. He is considered today's Einstein, considered one of the top most influential people in the world, and one of our scientists that talks about biocentrism, which made sense of quantum physics and the ability to make a lot of those formulas work through physics. He's now input biology, and it all came around and balanced all those equations. So let's talk about moments of abundance or scarcity in life. When we are afraid to die, I believe it's a scarcity. I believe we think we have a limited amount of time on this planet, and what happens when we die. And then abundance could be the other side, this unending story of human energy, of consciousness, of universe, whatever you might want to call it. And so let's consider that, yes, in a physical world and in this physical body, it appears that life has an end point. This physical body no longer supports the life, and yet that energy within the body, that consciousness within the body, could be that abundance, that abundant nature of universe and what we are as divine beings. So I choose joy amidst the adversity, because adversity is always coming down the pipe. And if I was to be constantly concerned with what was going to happen next, I think I would never leave my house. So I would like you to just explore that imagery of sturdy grain stalks And the idea of choosing joy, bending in the wind, facing to the sun, and always being resilient with life's challenges. Emphasizing that choosing joy does not actually negate or put rose-colored glasses on. It doesn't negate the challenges, but allows us to find beauty amidst adversity. And in the situation I was talking about right now, I mean, I cannot see the beauty in the loss, family tragedy. And yet, in the bigger scheme of life, she was such a bright light, and I believe that her light will continue to shine down upon us. So nurturing our soul can be done through positivity and through an act of gratitude. Gratitude, of course, is positive in nature, and so we see that correlation of nurturing our soul when we've had a soul wound. And creating a habit of seeking joy in the simplest of things. Had a conversation with my grandson the other night. They were sleeping over. Their parents were away, and he came down from his room and he was crying and called me out of bed. And so he said, "Grandma, what if I never see my parents again?" Talk about a rabbit hole. But, as a 9-year-old feeling homesick, he has lost his grandpa, and so he recognizes that there seems to be this stop where sometimes we don't physically see the people that we love anymore. And so this very deep and rewarding moment between the two of us, where we I comforted him for, what if I never see my parents again? And of course, bringing logic into the situation that was highly unlikely, and then redirecting him to find some inner peace by, discussing it, talking about them. And I talked about gratitude. I talked about being grateful for things. And that's how I end my day, by having a gratitude practice before sleep. And he thought that was actually really cool. And I thought he was even cooler because he's only 9. And so we see these new tools, these little life skills that we can add to our practice. This creates a habit within our brain that chooses happiness, that chooses positivity, that chooses joy. And so nurture your soul through positive types of activities like a gratitude practice. And this helps us realign in those deep and tragic moments in life. I make a habit of seeking joy in life, simplest moments. I once heard, if I only had in my life tomorrow what I was grateful for today, what would I have? And so I cultivate those positive points, like my lights turn on when I flip a switch, and I have a roof over my head, and I have beautiful friends and nurturing family, and I have food in my fridge, and I have my kitties and my puppies. And so I go back to the basics of a lot of things. Gratitude doesn't have to be about these moments in life that are grand. It can be about moments in life that are everyday, like stopping to smell the flowers, or being grateful for the food in your belly when other people may not have that. And so these positive perspectives, these simple moments in time, become a turning point within the brain. Joy is more than just an emotion. It's a way of perceiving life in its simplest and most complex forms. The power that we all have to infuse our day with joy is irrevocable, and it's irrespective of external circumstances. I once heard a wise psychologist said, we often look externally for joy, and yet our life is what's happening inside our bodies, inside our cranium. And what we experience outside of life is simply a life experience. And when we bring a life experience in through our senses, through what we see, smell, taste, feel emotionally, kinesthetically, and tune into, this is how we download that experience, and then we make sense of it. We collate it, it gets put through our belief systems, and then we spit our story out in language. And yet, this is not our life. This is our life. So we choose how we engage with these experiences. When we get disentangled from the pain, all the resources of everything that we learned in those difficult moments rise up and are accessible. It's the emotional entanglement. And if we listen to authors like David R. Hawking, time has passed. We can no longer control the past. And so continuing to grieve on a moment that's beyond us and can never be recovered, and in fact cannot be changed in many, many things, really puts the power back in ourselves, that we are able to disentangle ourselves from the pain. And that is empowering. I ask you, I persuade you, I offer you, how would I say, consider to please honor life's fleeting nature and to savor each moment akin like a grain of sand or a grain seed being planted in the field. The importance of living in the presence and letting go of the worries, letting go of the past and future worries can bring much joy in your life today. And my final words of encouragement and well wishes is that we choose joy in our own lives. We actually choose it. And if we can encourage a practice of embracing life's blessings and finding happiness within, then I believe the rewards are great. I encourage you to share your joyous experiences and challenges below. And then if you were to adopt a mindset of choosing joy, how would that shift the outcome? How would you be after? How would you be within, without? It's a transformational power that we have when we choose joy. The concept of choosing joy amidst life's unpredictably can be like a metaphor of a grain field, a grain seed in a field. I encourage you to enjoy the positive perspective and find joy in all aspects of life. If you would like to add your own story below or reach out to me when life has got you down, together we will build these resilient tools within you. And so you too can experience joy every day. Thank you for joining me today. This was Adele Anderson from Life Coach Adele, and another episode of Good Grief Relief. Until we speak in person at lifecoachadele.com. Stay well out there. Bye now.